Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Craig Booker. Do you often find yourself so overwhelmed that you don't know where to begin? In today's fast-paced world, we're often pulled in a million directions. But what if I told you that the key to a more fulfilling life isn't doing more, it's doing less? What if I told you that the secret to a happier, more fulfilling life is actually saying no? In this episode, we're exploring minimalism and how it relates to boundaries and priorities. We'll dig into why we often overcommit ourselves because we fall into the trap of saying yes when we need to say no. If you're ready to break free and learn to live an abundant life, this episode's for you. Minimalism. So, what is minimalism? Minimalism is a lifestyle that reduces excess and emphasizes intentional living. It's a concept that was made famous by famous thinkers like Joshua Becker, who wrote Becoming Minimalist, and The Minimalist, Joshua Fields Millburn, and Ryan Nicodemus. Their work often emphasizes decluttering both physically and mentally to focus on core values. In her book Reset, Deborah Fileta talks about a concept called concentrate and eliminate. This is focusing on what's essential and cutting out the excess. It helps you prioritize your core values like relationships, health, or goals, while letting go of distractions, unnecessary commitments, or clutter. The key benefits are clarity and focus on what matters, less stress by removing non-essentials, more time for meaningful activities. This approach helps simplify life, allowing you to focus on what truly brings value and fulfillment. Understanding boundaries. First up, what are boundaries? Boundaries are the line between what's important and what's not. Why do we need boundaries? Deborah Fileta says that boundaries protect us, our relationships, and our calling. The problem with overcommitting is that the more that we say yes, the less room we leave for what really matters. The distraction dilemma. The story of Martha and Mary found in Luke chapter 10, verses 41 and 42. If you recall, we look back at our last episode, we saw that Jesus was teaching Martha that there were a few things that were worth her attention. Mary, Martha's sister, had found what really mattered, and she wouldn't let all the distractions pull her away from spending time with Jesus. Minimalism and prioritization. Let's talk about life's priorities. Imagine that you're given some rocks, pebbles, and a pile of sand. Then you're asked to fill an empty jar. The goal here is to get all of the elements into the jar. Keep in mind that how you complete this task matters and the order matters. By filling the rocks first, followed by the pebbles, and last pouring in the sand, it will fill in all the extra crevices. This is an analogy for life and our priorities. The rocks here, they symbolize the essentials. The pebbles, they symbolize the important things. And the sand are all the extras in our lives. This illustration is all about our priorities and boundaries. Books like Essentialism by Greg McKeown explore how setting boundaries and focusing on what matters most is an essential part of living a simplified and productive life, which parallels the principles of minimalism. Let's talk about the root of saying yes. Many of us overcommit ourselves because we say yes when we really need to say no. Often this stems from emotional and psychological factors like the desire for approval. This is fear of disappointing others, or needing validation can make us say yes to gain acceptance. Next is guilt and obligation. Feeling responsible for others' happiness or success can push us to agree even at our own expense. Next is fear of conflict. We avoid confrontation or rejection, which leads to agreeing even when we don't want to. All right, we have belief that more equals better. We tie our self-worth to productivity, thinking doing more makes us more valuable. And then fixer mentality, wanting to be the hero or problem solver can lead to overcommitting. And last, a lack of boundaries. We say yes because we're uncomfortable setting boundaries or unaware of our own limitations. You see, to break this habit, we have to recognize the root. We have to reframe our value beyond productivity and practice saying no to protect our priorities and our well-being. Saying no and boundaries. The connection between minimalism and saying no comes from the idea that minimalism isn't just about possessions, it's also about simplifying mental clutter and overcommitment. Books like The Joy of Less by Francine Jay and Marie Kondo's work on decluttering both emphasize this aspect. Saying no as a minimalist act. Deborah Filetta's book emphasizes saying no to distractions and obligations that don't serve our higher purpose. It's a core tenet of minimalism. In a minimalist lifestyle, saying no allows us to reclaim time, energy, and space for what truly matters, whether it's relationships, personal goals, or spiritual growth. Eliminate the excess. The theme of purging unnecessary commitments to focus on essentials relates to the minimalist idea of eliminating distractions. A great source on this topic is Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, which talks about eliminating excess to allow for deep focus on meaningful work. Deborah Filetta talks about purging the things from our lives to make room for the essentials. This speaks to the concept found in minimalism of practice of decluttering. Whether it's removing unnecessary objects from your home or saying no to commitments that drain you, both minimalism and Deborah's book Reset advocate for cutting out what doesn't serve a greater purpose. The abundant life. You may say, Craig, all of this is great, but where is it leading me? And this is where I answer that question. To me, living the abundant life is what this is all about. Living an abundant life means experiencing fullness in all areas, spiritually, emotionally, and relationally. It's not about accumulating things, but focusing on quality experiences, meaningful relationships, and gratitude for what you have. Some key elements to this are purpose, which is align your actions with your core values. It's contentment. It's appreciating the present rather than seeking more. It's setting healthy boundaries. It's protecting your time and energy by setting limits. It's balance. It's having rest and avoiding burnout, allowing space for joy. It's also generosity. It's serving others and adding meaning to your life. You see, abundant living is about living with intentionality, gratitude, and purpose, creating a life rich in meaning and connection. All right, it's time that we take action. We need to set healthy boundaries. We're going to do an exercise that comes from Deborah Filetta's book Reset to help us apply what we've learned. Number 1 is list the things that fall into the following categories in your own life. So this is applying the analogy of the rocks, pebbles, and sand. So the rocks are the essentials, the pebbles are the important, and the sand are the extras. So we're going to list the things that fall into these categories. Number 2 is how has a lack of prioritizing negatively affected your life? What important things end up suffering when your priorities get out of sync? Number 3 is what does it look like to eliminate the excess from your life and schedule to make room for the essentials? List 3 ways you can do that in the coming weeks. Number 4 is what is the root of your yes? Write down the areas where you struggle to say no, and then write down the underlying thoughts and beliefs that might be contributing to each one. So my goal here is that hopefully you'll listen through this the first time, and then you'll pause it, you'll rewind it, and get out your journal, maybe open your Notes app on your phone and go through these one by one. All right, our verse for reflection this week comes from Luke chapter 10, verses 41 through 42. It says, "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Let's recap what we've learned. In this episode, we discuss minimalism and how it relates to boundaries. We got down to the root of why we always say yes when we need to say no. We explored how setting boundaries can lead to an abundant life. All right, now keep in mind that abundance is about living with intentionality, gratitude, and purpose, creating a life rich in meaning and connection. By learning to say no, we create space for what really matters. By saying no to the extra, unnecessary things, we set ourselves up for a richer, more meaningful life.